Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. I love saying this every time, but Pasha, we're back, baby. We're back and on for another episode of Life's Essential Ingredients. And why I like saying that is you just never know what life has in store for you. And I think if we can all slow down, take a deep breath, and realize that we're blessed to be here for this day. And with that said, Mike and I welcome our guest, Sharon Hughes, to the show. And Sharon, just welcome.
Thank you. I'm having a blast already. You guys are so much fun before you even hit record. So I can't wait to do this.
I just hope we're better after record than before. Come on, Paco, get on our game.
Hey, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one, and we always bring the heat and do the best that we can. Listeners, we can't thank you enough for tuning into another episode, putting up with Mike and I, the real Mike. And we have people in at least 20 countries listening in, and so a sincere thank you for all of those of you who take the time to listen in. Again, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to me at jeff@c4leaders.org. If you have any insight or questions or comments, let us know. But let's get into our guest, because we're in for a treat, which we are on every episode. But this is going to be a good one with a lot of knowledge shared. And if you want to enhance your confidence, grow your confidence, increase your confidence, get out your notebook and get to writing. So our guest, Sharon Hughes, and she is coming to us from Whitter, California, down south, where you can find her, SharonHughes.net, and that's SharonHughes.net. Her Instagram, at Sharon Hughes Official. And she also hosts her own podcast, and you can find her and listen in to her show at Called to Confidence. I love the title. That's not quite, I'm not going to compare Life's Essential Ingredients to that, but they're both very good. I love that, Called to Confidence. Deep, and maybe we'll get into how you even name that too. I love it. So she's an author, speaker, coach, podcaster, mother, and believer. After doing just about everything from being on the cover of a magazine as a model, to creating an international home decor product line, to corporate training, and everything in between, there was success, but there was something lurking just beneath her surface. As our guest continued her self-development, she shattered her surface to identify a huge self-worth issue that had held her back from finding and developing her true self. Sharon suffered for years in silence from abuse and the trauma of being drugged and waking up in her garage. Her pivot was to live her calling and purpose by sharing how she overcame the lies she was telling herself. Sharon made the choice to use her life's challenges as opportunities to heal and empower not only herself, but women all over the world. Sharon authored her first book, The Girl in the Garage, 3 Steps to Letting Go of Your Past, which became the Amazon's #1 new release. Congrats on that, Sharon. Sharon is in the process of writing her second book, Called to Confidence. Life's Essential Ingredients is honored to have you as our guest. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Dang, you're making me blush. I could just go home now. That was it.
I love that. And I love doing these introductions, and I love people just kind of being in the space just to sit there and listen, and then hopefully honor in yourself. Hey, Jeff is talking about me, and just to sit back and say, wait a second. Yeah, I'm doing some work to help other people and to serve other people, and calling them to confidence and honoring myself in them. And I think we don't do this stuff enough, just to sit back and take that pat on the back. And not that you stay in that space, because there's too much work to do, but we need that to give us what I would say to light the fuse to just get us going and keep getting after it. So yeah, I'm glad you appreciated that, and we're excited again for this show. And Sharon, we always start with a thought of the day. So after researching you, after picking from, I don't know how many different quotes are out there to choose from, but this is the one that I picked for you. So I'm going to read it to you, and then you say, hey, your thoughts on it and maybe why I picked it. It's a short one, but deep. The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong in the broken places. And that's from Ernest Hemingway, A Farewell to Arms. Your thoughts on that?
Boy, that's a deep one, isn't it? The world, as we know, is not very kind and certainly doesn't play very fairly. And a lot of us find ourselves in places where we're just like, this isn't exactly what I had planned for my life. But what I learned is how we respond to these terrible scenarios that we're dealt. And, there's like a list of things that can go wrong. I've lived through a lot of things that could go wrong. The takeaway really is what are you believing about yourself at the end of the day? And what is really possible for you? Something that I've been hearing, a message, I'm very faith driven, but I've been hearing this message over and over that keeps saying to me, what's in your hand? So for the listeners that are going through those really, really hard times and you just feel like you're not going to make it, I want to encourage you, because there's something in your hand that you can use that's going to change the trajectory of your life and probably change the trajectory of lives around you. But you got to dig deep, and you've got to have faith, and you've got to just put one foot in front of the other. And honestly, sometimes, and I know this sounds cheesy, people say live day by day. There were times in my life I was living hour to hour. I was just like, I just got to get through the next hour. If I can get through the next hour, then I can just deal with that. And then we'll deal with the next hour when we get there.
Yeah. And so true. And I think we're with this pandemic and just all the challenges that have been going on over these past, forever, but most recently the past couple of years. Yeah, I think it has been a difficult time and so much suffering that it's hard to even focus on 1 week away, let alone maybe one day, and just trying to get through these moments. And I actually want to go back to what you said, because it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. I want you to explain, because I got goosebumps when you said it, and I get goosebumps probably about 20 times a day. I'm so blessed. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy for me. I'm coaching Winners girls basketball, and we had a team meeting yesterday, and I got them probably 5 times talking to the girls. And when you said, what is in your hand, that did something to me. But what do you mean by that specifically?
Well, what is in your hand is really a story out of the Old Testament. It's when Elijah came to the widow, and she had a tiny little bit of oil left. And she was just basically like, hey, I've got nothing to give you, buddy. Me and my son, we're just getting ready to die. And, it was really him saying, what's in your hand? Well, it was that tiny little bit of oil. Olive oil was valuable. It was a big part of daily life in the Old Testament times. And he told her, go get jugs from your neighbors, go get every jug and vessel you can find. And really, God worked this miracle that multiplied the oil. They started pouring the oil from the little jug that she had into all these other vessels. And then all of a sudden, she runs out of vessels to pour them into. And then she was able to take that oil and go and sell it. And so she pulled herself out of poverty and out of that despair. What people don't realize is that they have so many more talents and gifts. They're kind of like, they disqualify themselves before they even get started. They don't give themselves a chance, because a lot of times we're living in comparison, like, oh, look at that person because, they've done really, really big things. You can't compare your starting point to somebody else that's been in the trenches for years and decades and think it's going to happen overnight. But you got to start with what is in your hand. So it could be anything. You might know how to play piano, and you could teach kids to play piano, and that not just fills your soul and fills the soul of the children, it might be a way to make money. So, there's different levels that you can look at this. It can be just things for influencing the world around you. That might be in your hand, but it might be something that's more of an entrepreneurial type of adventure.
Man, you kind of knocked me off of my chair right there. I just love what you're saying. Let's just jump into it. I wanted to slow play this a little bit, but with what you're talking about, and you say sometimes people don't give themselves a chance, and you're not a psychologist, I don't think, nor am I, nor is Mike, but I know there's so much research out on epigenetics and the environment, the culture of which we live, and how that can get passed on from grandma to daughter to granddaughter, and people don't give themselves a chance, and sometimes we just stay in that space and we don't even really know. So how would you, let's just jump right to it, let's just get into your expertise of helping people feel more confident. How would you take someone that's in this space and they just don't have that belief in themselves? What are some steps for them to take?
Well, I approach confidence from a completely different angle than most people do. So I believe that confidence is a skill set that can be learned. And really what's typical is the deeper issue of self-worth and do I deserve this? So everybody knows how to bake a cake pretty much, right? You got that box of mix, get your Betty Crocker box of mix and the can of frosting, and you slap it on there and presto, you have a cake. That's how I roll. But okay, I'm confident in that. I can follow the recipe on the back and pull this off. You guys could do that too. But we all know the gal that can bake the cake that shows up that's, beautiful. It's got all the fancy writing and the flowers or, the decorations on it. Could you and I learn how to decorate a cake? Yeah. Would we be more confident once we took a class and learned how to fill those, I think they call them piping bags with frosting, and learned how to do this? Sure. Because right now I'm not very confident in my cake decorating skills. See, so that's an example of you and I could take a class, or we could sit down in the kitchen and play with this stuff all day long and probably get a little better at it and feel more confident. Okay, now let's say that we've got that beautiful cake. And then we go, okay, I'm invited to the neighborhood block party. Am I going to bring the cake? Do I feel good about what I'm bringing to the world? Or do I feel good even about what I'm receiving, like the gift of a cake? What happens, and this is really interesting, is so many people struggle with the fact that they deserve what they have? And they get all hung up in that they're not confident. So let me take it back a step. I'll tell you this really great story. This is my favorite story. So about 5-6 years ago, I was really hitting rock bottom. That's not the favorite part of the story though. But I was laying in bed one morning and I was praying. I just woke up and I was like, I am not going to make it. I'm not going to make it, God. And I heard God say, what are you believing about yourself? And I just thought, really? You know all the things. And he said, is it true? That was pivotal. That's what started my journey into self-development and really saying, what do I believe about myself? Well, fast forward a couple years and I was in corporate training. I was working for a company that had about 500 employees, and I was given free creative reign to create any kind of training that I wanted. So I went around and I asked all the department managers, what is it you need? And they were saying, well, we need to learn how to communicate. We need personal development. We need leadership development, all this stuff. And I said, okay, great. So I went back and I created a training. And the way I opened it is I said to everybody in the room, what is it you're believing about yourself? What is the thing you've dragged around? For the guys, is it the coach that told you you're not good enough? You won't make the cut. For the girls, it's the girl that maybe was left at the altar. She was dumped. She never got invited to the prom. She was told she's, too chubby. Nobody will ever love you. I said, don't tell me what it is. I go through the whole training. And at the end, I say, okay, that thing that you believed about yourself, what if you weren't that? What would you be? And a girl in the front row blurted out, free. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm onto something here. So I did the training for another room full of people a week later, guys, girls, and both times it was a mixed demographic of people. But the second time, 2 people in the room started crying, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired because I'm making people cry in training, and that's not what this is about. But afterwards, one of the guys that had been crying, and he was probably about 37 years old, he came up to me and he said, I haven't spoken to my family in 10 years. And I'm going to call them tonight. And I went home and I said, we're on to something here. This is the question, is what are you believing about yourself? And is it true? And then again, if you're not that, then who would you be? This will change your life. And this is the thing, like you were talking about the epigenetics, this is tied to it. Because we have these mindsets that are passed down generation to generation of, oh, that's just how it is. Just accept it. That's just how it is. That's just who you are. You'll never be anything. You don't come from anything. Your granddaddy wasn't anything, but he worked the farm. Okay, that doesn't mean he wasn't anything. Gosh, he was providing food for the nation. Wow, when we reframe things like that, a farmer isn't just a farmer. He's providing food for a nation. That's impact. So don't disqualify yourself. Boom.
I like the boom. That was good.
Mike all fired up.
That was a good boom right there. Sharon, I just want to ask you first, please don't assume that I can follow a recipe and put a cake together.
Oh, come on, Mike. I got you. You and I, we're going to bake a cake.
I need confidence there. Thank you. But when you were talking about when people think that they don't deserve it, is that something that someone else puts in their mind and they're listening to that other voice that's putting them down or telling them they can't? Or is that something people come up with on their own?
Well, I think it's really a combination of both. Because quite often, especially when this starts out as children, we're so vulnerable as kids. We don't really have that discernment of looking at a parent that's saying, you'll never make the team, you're not good enough, or the coach that says that. We don't have that discernment to look at them and go, yeah, I am good enough. And this is about you. We tend to, because we're open and we're vulnerable and we're kids, we're like, well, they're adults. They must know better than me. That was really the experience of my life. And that's been what I've found with the clients that I've worked with, is somebody somewhere planted that seed. And then the seed gets watered and it takes root, and it just follows them through their life until they come to that kind of man in the mirror, come to Jesus moment of saying, time out here. This isn't right. How did I get here? And really start examining your thoughts and your beliefs about yourself.
Yeah, we're definitely speaking the same language, and that's why we picked, life's essential ingredients, just to try and help us all take a step back and say, hey, what is truly essential? How did those ingredients, in our case, wind up on my pizza / in my life? Are they mine? Are they from, my parents, my grandparents, somebody else put those, like my pastor was saying, in my head, and those are for sure non-essential ingredients that don't help me live my best life. and that's, I think, our challenge with all these distractions that are going on with this pandemic. And even like, off air listeners, Sharon was talking about how in LA now they're have a lot of strict guidelines for getting in and out of stores and restaurants and everything. It's just one more thing that we have to think about that doesn't necessarily help us focus and put our energy into what's truly essential. And I think that's something that we have to really listen to as well, is if we're having to put energy into these other things, which right now that is what it is. So we have to play within those rules. Then how can I find the energy to put into what's truly essential? My family, my self-development, my relationships, whatever that answer is for you. But you only have so much energy to put in to what's truly essential. And that's where I'm hoping Sharon's going to give us some insight. So Sharon, the question for you, is one, kind of you share what are your life's essential ingredients, and how do those, how do you make sure you address those each day? And I'm specifically asking kind of what are your habits that you have to kind of start your day off that might be helpful for the listeners to take in? Hey, I can incorporate that, and I can see how that's of value.
That's good. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of distractions, and there's a lot on our plates right now. One of the things that I think is really important to start your day with is everybody's alarm goes off, right? Is have a reminder on your phone that goes off first thing in the morning and says, what are you choosing to believe about yourself? Because really we have to start being in charge of our thought process. So if you first thing wake up and you're dragging yourself to the coffee pot and you're thinking this day is going to suck, I was a jerk to my wife last night, or, I blew up at a coworker, I must be, and then fill in the blank, a loser, a jerk, or maybe a stronger word. If those are your thought processes first thing in the morning, it's not good. We need to go, okay, let's step into truth. Okay, am I human? Do I make mistakes? Yeah. Do I owe somebody an apology? Yes, probably do. Do I need to do some work on myself? Yep. Because if you don't work on yourself in personal development, it's going to bleed out into other areas of your life. So we all know people that can crush it in the boardroom, people that are, closing the big deals, the heavy hitters in the company. Even those people, they go home and they think, what am I doing all this for? My family doesn't speak to me because I'm never home. I'm not there to build relationships. Or maybe there's a single guy that thinks, he's not lovable for some reason. Maybe his wife walked out on him. So he finds his identity in closing the big deals, but he hasn't dealt with that work on his heart and his mind. And then, of course, also your soul. Where are you with your faith? What are you believing about that? That's such a big influencer. So yeah, start your day off with really examining what it is that you think about yourself. And I think for people that are really, really struggling with tons of self-worth issues, have that alarm go off midday, check in. And then at the end of the night, and most leaders do this, they evaluate their day. They look at what worked and what didn't. And can we be honest with ourselves and go, I dropped the ball here. So being aware of that and what we need to work on. And then you don't beat yourself up about it. You just reprioritize, recalibrate, and then go, okay, so tomorrow, this is what I need to focus on to get back in my groove. But they're simple steps. I think that as humans, we like things to be so complicated because we think it can't possibly be this easy, but it really is that easy.
Yeah, definitely. Those are great tips. And definitely the older I get, the more I realize the simpler I keep life, kind of the more focused and the happier, I am. And it just kind of goes back to energy regulation for me. I actually have some challenges, with that. And so I got to really be mindful of, hey, it's going to come at a pretty good expense if I'm going to invest some negativity or invest my energy into things that aren't going to help me do what I need to do. So again, finding the time to know what those things are for you is important, which would lead me kind of to the next question. Do you have a decision-making process that you use? And that's kind of a loaded question and a goopy one. I think it's a good one because I don't think it's often shared of how people make decisions. But yeah, do you have a process that you use?
I do. And I'm so glad that you asked. It's actually in my book, but you write down your list of values, and it can be anything. It can be literally anything. You might value money, you might value relationships, you might value hard work or education, but we want to look at different areas of those, your ethics and integrity. And you write down a list, just everything. And then you go back through and you pick your top 5. Then anytime you have to make a decision, you want to make sure that that decision lines up with your top 5 choices of how you want to live your life. Because if you rule in or you live by honesty, but you have to make a decision that isn't really honest. You have to say to yourself, can I live with this decision if I step through that door? That flies in the face of who I say that I am. So there's a really great exercise in the book to work through that. And that's another thing that we tend to overcomplicate. We make it harder.
Yeah, well, definitely. I think that's been the world in which we live. I actually love almond butter, but you go to the store and there's, 13 different almond butters. And so, you have to know what you're searching for, and just ties into, like you're saying, knowing the values of which you live your life. Okay, let me look to those as a way to make decisions. So you're bringing up your book. Again, it's called, for listeners, The Girl in the Garage, 3 Steps to Letting Go of Your Past. Make sure you get out and check that out. Again, it was on Amazon's #1 new release. That's what we're talking about, Pasha. We're not talking number 2, 3, 4, 5. We're talking about numero uno, Pashito. So what was the process of writing that? And I have a feeling, our thought of the day was big into writing that. Again, the world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong in the broken places. But just talk about whatever aspect of your book that you want to share with our listeners.
I have no idea how I wrote the book. It was a miracle, really. Somebody told me, write a chapter just as if it could stand alone. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And I went through a lot of my old journals and just looked at things that I had went through and struggled. I was like, okay, this makes a little bit of sense if I frame it up this way. And it's also a workbook, so it helps people get their breakthrough. And I was just like, these are the questions that I would ask a friend if I was helping them walk through something. And so, yeah, it was interesting. And what else did you ask me?
That's good. My Pacho's got. That's good. That's good. My Pacho's got you.
Okay.
You're making me laugh, Sharon.
Well,
My
good.
question is, I know you wrote the book, and I think it helped you tremendously, just getting that story out. But I just want to know, how does it make you feel to know that your book is doing so well out there? Did that bring you any kind of sense of joy or anything?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So something was said earlier about celebrating the things that we do. Jeff, you said it. And I had realized recently, I've done a lot of really cool things. And it was always like, okay, what's next? Because I didn't celebrate myself. And a lot of it was coming from that place of having deep self-worth issues. I thought, do I deserve the accolades? So, for example, when I had my wholesale business, it got a lot of press. It was in a lot of like home decor type of magazines. And I was always super thankful, but there was something inside me that said, you didn't really work hard enough for that. And that is a self-worth issue. So if somebody is listening and they're sitting in that C-suite, looking out their office window, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in over my head. I don't deserve to be sitting here. You have a self-worth issue. And until you deal with that, you're not going to feel confident in your skill set completely. You're not going to feel good in your skin. So recently the book won an award, and when I got the notification, I started to cry, and I was stepping into a meeting, and it just made me think that, well, I have to tell you guys this. Because I was homeless when I was 17, I didn't graduate high school. I went on and got my GED later, and then I did go to some college, but I just thought, God he doesn't call the people that are just qualified with all the fancy letters behind their name. Whoever he calls, he qualifies. And so the book was given, it was by Reader's Favorites. It was given a silver medal for Christian biblical counseling. And I was like, he qualified me. He brought me through the storms, and then he qualified me. So it does feel good, because I do get letters from women that are just saying, well, your story is my story. They've been through a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse and neglect. And that makes me cry every time I hear it, because I don't know, I guess I live in a bubble, and I just think, oh, it's my story. It's not that big a deal. Like, everybody has a story, right? And I look at other people, I'm like, their story is so compelling. But if you haven't lived through it, it looks different, I guess, to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, congrats on that. And not to sound weird, but yeah, everybody has a story, and it's just hopefully we can get to the space, of everybody having different stories, and I know you probably wouldn't change your story because it made you who you are. But sometimes I think we go through so many struggles, and does life really have to put us through these struggles to make us stronger, and it kind of goes against this quote, the world breaks everyone, afterward many are strong in the broken places. But maybe let's not break so hard. Maybe let's just break a little bit, and not have so much trauma, not have so much hate, not have so much suffering. And I think we do need those things, and it is obviously part of life. But man, it's just so much, and I think I'm hopeful that this pandemic, when the dust settles, that this world is going to be stronger in the places that divided us, whether you got vaccinated or not, whatever political party you're with or not, whatever color you are or not, that we can just say, hey, we're all one people. And we all suffer, and we all have these pains, but that's less than that by supporting each other, by helping each other rise up, and just be stronger. And so, yeah, I'm going a little bit off the deep end here, but yeah, I think, and my pastor's like, come on, man.
Deep is good. Deep is good. I don't do shallow. I'm just saying, don't invite me to a dinner party if we're going to be shallow.
Yeah.
Like let's get to the meat.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the meat right now. And I'm going to totally like, how is this guy coming up with this? Hey, your daughter just graduated nursing school.
Oh yeah.
So that's deep right there. Cause I know that you don't know, but I'm a nurse.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah. I've been a nurse for 29 years.
Holy cow.
I have a few health challenges, and my last job was a nursing professor at Sacramento City College. So I know exactly what your daughter just went through and how she feels. And man, I miss my students. If any of you are listening, I love you and I appreciate you, and you helped me learn so much about who I was. But let's give your daughter some love and congratulations out there. And how proud were you of her for everything that she did to take that step in her life?
Oh, that girl. I look at her and I go, how did you do what you've done? She's amazing. Yeah, she just passed her NCLEX. She bought a condo a year ago. She just adopted a dog. Her dog's over here, is laying next to me. I'm fur grandma today. But yeah, it's amazing. And that's what I mean is we look at other people's journeys and we go like, how did you do that? How did you overcome the obstacles? Because there was a point where she was in nursing school and working 2 jobs. And I said, okay, this has to stop. I'm going to put everything in storage. I'm going to move in with you. I'm going to pay the rent and you just go to school. And that was interesting. I don't think any adult really wants their mom to move in with them, but we did that for a couple of years. And that just kind of gave her the space to really be focused. And yeah, so it's a new leg of her journey now.
Yes.
And she's gorgeous too, I have to add. She's absolutely gorgeous.
Well, she takes after her mom.
Thank you. Yeah, I was fishing. Yeah. I was fishing.
You got the hook in my mouth and my passion's mouth, so we got to give that love. That's part of coming on Life's Essential Ingredients. I always said, hey, we want our guests to feel like it was the best use of their time. And we want you, when you're done, like, oh my gosh, I feel so good from coming on this show. And then those great feelings that you have go on and get passed on to the next few people that you're going to interact with. And so this is intentional, that's what we do, but you are beautiful. And we appreciate you coming on the show and talking about your daughter. And my Pasho has something that he is itching to share.
I just want to say, we have something in common. You were on the cover of a magazine and I'm the eye candy of this show. So we have that in common. That's good stuff.
You definitely are the eye candy of the show, my friend.
Oh, you must not have your glasses on.
Oh my goodness. All right, we're going. I don't know where this is going right now, but we're coming back. So
it's just a big love fest.
Exactly. If I heard you correctly, when you moved in with your daughter, you were basically an incredible role model. So who was a role model in your life that has helped you, be who you are today?
Oh gosh. I kind of hate this question in a way because somebody was asking me to do a collab with them on a book where we're going to talk about influence and role models. And I said, I didn't have one. How am I going to approach this story? Because there was just so much drama in my life. And now I look back and I'm like, God, these people really need some flipping therapy. It's just weird. I think I was just incredibly blessed. I was very much the girl that wanted to have the dog, the picket fence and bake cookies. And, I wanted to just have a family and do normal, the American dream type of stuff. Almost all the boys, my parents remarried and then there was stepkids on both sides. All the boys ended up in trouble, with drug addiction and going to jail. And it's really weird. I was in some counseling several years back and the counselor said to me, you're not normal. And I was kind of like, obs, come on. But what do you mean by that? And he was like, no, most people that have been through what you've been through, they've got 10 kids from 5 baby daddies, they're addicted and they're living in a trailer. And you know what? It kind of pissed me off, really, because I thought, what they don't realize, so they only know the statistics of what's reported. There are more women like me that don't look like they've been to hell and back, that have been successful, that have raised families and had, great lives. They never tell their story. So I don't think that is a true statistic, what he was saying to me. I understand what he was trying to say. I think it was supposed to be a compliment, but it kind of made me mad.
Yeah, no, I would be upset and not to get into that whole thing, we'll move on, but in his role, it's important to be non-judgmental and to take your biases and at least understand that you have those biases. And just by what you're sharing with me is no, he's just bringing that right in and kind of putting that label, not necessarily on you, but on people that look like you, which is part of the challenges that we have going on in the world right now. But no, let's change it up and get back to being positive. I know one of the expertises you have is on culture and communication. And so let me just let you pick one of those of the power of communication, perhaps, or how do you suggest people enhance their communication skills, or if you want, culture and the importance of creating a culture that is of accepting all people.
Oh, you're going to play hardball now after all the loving you did?
Yes.
Dang.
Yes.
All right, let's do well, this could be communication or culture. I think really just some of the best advice that I heard, and this comes from Cy Wakeman. She's a speaker, author. She wrote a book called, I think it's called Reality-Based Leadership. That's what it is. She talks a lot about ditching the drama. So really, we talked earlier about what do you believe about yourself? Oh, let's go deeper now, my friends. What do you believe about other people? Because if you're getting caught up in these weird stories, like we'll use the workspace in that culture, everybody likes a healthy corporate culture, right? But also in the communication, we want to be healthy. Well, what are we believing about, Bill that sits 3 doors down in his office and he didn't reply to my email? Oh, Bill, he's goofing off. He's probably playing games on his phone, hiding in his office because he knows this report is due and he wants me to just take care of it because he's a loser. He doesn't like me. See how the story starts to unfold? We got to be really careful that we're not telling ourselves big, crazy stories. We have to come back and say, what do we know for sure? It's so simple. What do we know for sure? Take all the emotion out of it. And here's something I learned when I was going through training to become a coach. It was, if I think, okay, Mike, I asked you to go bake a cake and you say yes, but then you don't show up. And I'm mad at you. And you and I are good friends. So we reschedule. You say, oh, something came up and we fight. And then we reschedule. And then you're late. And I have this whole story. Mike doesn't love me. I'm not his good friend anymore. He doesn't really care about how I feel. Oh, Mike is, he's not very thoughtful. Why would he be late? Why would he blow me off? See, these are all stories. Write 4 reasons why it's not about me. Write down 4 reasons why Mike might not have shown up or Mike might have been late. And then you take it all off of you and you stop personalizing this weird story that we get. And that's going to help you have better communication and better relationships, the better culture and environment to live in right there is you got to check yourself. You got to stay in your lane. You got to make sure that you are telling yourself the truth about people.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I love the simplicity and how it's just real of you can just immediately catch yourself in that space. Okay, well, let me write down the 4 reasons. Okay. And then hopefully you go have an interaction with Mike without the emotions. And then you have a conversation and then it builds the relationship piece. And so then, now you're off and running and talk about powerful communication and culture. Again, that's what we need. We need these interactions face-to-face. We need these relationships being built so people can feel like they can go and talk and interact with each other and disagree and say, okay, well, good. I'm glad I gained your perspective on things, and all right, let's move forward, or let's schedule another meeting, whatever it is. But just having those, because so much is lost in text, in emails, in this other space of where we just go somewhere else, like you're talking about, that is just not healthy and doesn't allow us to enhance our communication and culture that are just vital towards success of whatever team, family, business, nonprofit, relationship. It just doesn't matter. I mean, that's the game. That is what is truly essential on Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike and Sharon Hughes. All right, hey, we're almost out of here. Pasha, I'm a little bit off today. I'm sorry, listeners. Sharon, we're at the end of the show, and there's two things left, and one is the legacy. I love ending the show with this. So John Alston has an amazing quote that I love. The only thing you take with you when you're gone is what you leave behind. And so you are on your deathbed. This, hopefully 40 years, 50 years from now, you've lived an incredible life. You're surrounded by love. What is it that you want the people that witness your life to take with them for their remaining days?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just really knowing that anything's possible, and that no matter who you are, what you've been through, what's been done to you, is that you matter. I think that's really, really overlooked. People, again, disqualify themselves. But because I'm faith-based, I have to say, you matter to the creator of the universe, the Lord God Almighty, and you're here for a purpose and a reason. And he meets you where you are. You do not need to go clean yourself up to be good enough for him. So I think that's really the message that I want to leave behind when I depart the world. Yeah.
I love it. And that's, thank you for sharing that. And then what question do you wish we would have asked that we haven't, that you like, oh man, I really want to share this with the listeners?
Oh man. You didn't ask me what I like on my pizza.
I do actually have, I didn't ask you, but favorite healthy food. And we're going to put our pizza in that category because it's a sourdough, homemade dough, fresh, homemade red sauce and pesto green sauce. But yeah, what is your favorite pizza? And what do you like on that?
I like sausage and olives. It's pretty simple.
Oh,
pretty simple. Yep.
I could see my Pacho liking that combo. He loves him some meat. Pacho, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm good with the sausage. The olives, though, unfortunately, it's like pineapple on my pizza. I go the other way.
All right. Well, Sharon, we will definitely have to invite you at some point. You know, our the nonprofit C4 leaders again. It's an old Toyota delivery truck that we chopped the top on and put a pizza oven on the back. It actually looks really cool. And at some point, I'm going to be driving it down to San Pedro. We got to do some fundraisers and stuff. And we've had a few people on the show from LA and San Diego, and every one of them, we're like, hey, when we come, you got to come out and participate in this thing. So we will definitely reach out and we will get you that sausage and olive pizza that you're talking about.
That's awesome.
Really appreciate you coming on the show. Pacho, you got any closing remarks?
I just want to thank Sharon. That was a lot of fun. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor.
Yes, and listeners, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Life's Essential Ingredients. We will drop this show actually coming for you, Sharon, next week. So this is awesome. Wow. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And Pachito, you know how we do it. Sharon already dropped the boom one time. I loved it. Hopefully that was intentional with the C4 stuff, Sharon. I'm going to give you the grace that it was. But listeners, boom, baby. That just happened. We're out.